This is Brishum Harris's art speech presentation for English 101, 1 p.m. In 1814, Goya depicted a French firing squad shooting Spanish revolutionaries on 3rd of May, 1808. Painted during the Romanticism era of art, in which a great yearning for justice and equality were present, Goya's painting demonstrated a lack of justice by an oppressive force. The era in which Goya painted this piece set a baseline in which a clear theme can be drawn. A theme of the oppressive effects of revolutionary war is clearly depicted in Goya's art. This theme is important because of its relationship with the era in which it was painted. In the Romanticism era, people strove for justice, and oppression is clearly shown in Goya's painting as a form of injustice. In order to understand Francisco Goya's 3rd of May, 1808, we must first analyze 3 objects. These will help us to understand a theme surrounding the injustice acts of war. Goya painted this because of his heritage. Throughout Goya's years of painting, much of his focus was on the Napoleonic invasion of Spain. This was because it was his home country. Goya was well known as a watcher of the world, and what he saw happen to his country and countrymen was reflected in this painting. The overall mood of this painting is sorrow. This is depicted by Goya in his use of a dark background. Everything in the painting is surrounded by a dark shade, with the background being completely black. This produces a dark, sorrowful mood which portrays Goya's sorrow for his fallen countrymen. The theme of this is a choice of death over oppression. This theme is present in the painting in the demonstration of French firing squad mercilessly murdering innocent Spaniards. They have lined them up in preparation to gun them down. However, the Spaniards instead step up to accept their death. They do this so they do not have to live under an oppressive rule. The first object is the man in white. To begin with, the man in white draws your attention and is the most important object in this painting. He is located on the left side of the painting to depict that he is on one side of a conflict. The man also is directly facing the French soldiers in clear opposition of their oppression. The man is also angled towards the viewer so that the full extent of his body can be seen, from his face to his knees. This shows the viewers and audience that this man is the most important object in the painting. Secondly, we look at the form of the white man, or the man in white. The man is the brightest part of the painting. He draws all the attention of the viewer, making it clear that the artist wants to make a point with him. He is casted in a bright light, making him seem almost angelic, to prove that his intentions are pure and innocent. He is also wearing white to reiterate his purity. Last of all, the man in white symbolizes a choice of death over oppression. The man depicted would rather die than be oppressed. This shows his choice. He has his hands outstretched in surrender to the French oppressors. He demonstrates that he would rather die than live under an oppressive rule, and that he had a choice in doing so, thus showing his choice of death over oppression. There are still 2 objects in Goya's painting that symbolize Goya's theme of death over oppression. The next object is the dark French soldiers. These dark French soldiers are another important object in Goya's painting. They are casted in a shadow to show that they belong to a cause that goes against good. Their backs are turned away from the viewer so as to hide their faces. This is important because the majority of people who intend bad deeds hide their faces to evade identification, much like the French soldiers in this painting. They also take up a large portion of the painting, making it important that the viewer see and pay attention to them, making them an important object. Second, Look at the form of the dark French soldiers. The soldiers are casted in almost all black to show that they are evil and that they are the oppressive force that fights against the revolutionaries. This is important to note because it is what shows the essence of what the French soldiers' goal is, which is to control and subjectify the revolutionaries. Finally, the dark French soldiers symbolize oppression. The dark French soldiers have their guns lowered at innocent people, symbolizing that they are killing to control and subjectify. To subjectify and to control people is to oppress them. Therefore, the French soldiers symbolize oppression. The French symbolic meaning of oppression directly correlates to the Spaniards' choice of death over oppression. Without the oppression, they would not have to choose death. Therefore, the oppression is important to the theme of a choice of death over oppression. There is still one other object that is important in Goya's painting. The next object is the dead, bloodied man. To begin with, the dead, bloodied man is important. The man is centralized in the painting so that he becomes one of the first things the viewer looks at, showing that Goya wants to send a message to the viewer. He's also casted in a light, making him one of the few objects done so. Again, drawing the viewer's attention and demonstrating that Goya is trying to tell them something. This makes him an important object for the viewer's audience to take note of. Furthermore, the design of the dead bloody man shows his value to Goya's meaning. The man is sprawled across the ground in a haphazard manner. This gives a key piece of information into the meaning of why Goya painted this man. The haphazard way he is painted shows the lack of care the French have for them. Also, he's the only one depicted in this manner, showing that there is further message Goya desires to portray from this man. The dead, bloodied man symbolizes the death caused by oppression. The man is laying in a pool of blood in front of a firing squad that has invaded his country. This shows that the dead, bloodied man is the obvious effect of his oppression, showing that death is therefore the effect of oppression. The fact that the dead, bloodied man is dead demonstrates his symbolic meaning of death being the cause of oppression. This shows that many more than just the man in white have made this choice to die than rather be oppressed. Goya's painting greatly influenced the Romanticism era by propelling what people strove for in it and spreading a clear message. He depicted a true picture of injustice and oppression, which directly went against what people strove for during this time period. He also influenced many other artists with his style by using his techniques, particularly with light and shading. However, there was another object that is of some importance. The hill behind the Spanish revolutionaries. This was depicted by Goya as a wall behind them, so that it seemed as though the French had backed them into a corner. Despite this, the other objects are more important because they better demonstrate how the French were oppressive of the Spanish, and how the Spanish would rather have died than be oppressed by the French invaders. In order to understand August Gustave Lisinski's Joan of Arc in battle, we must first analyze 3 objects. These help to prove a theme surrounding the injustice acts of war. Joan of Arc in battle was painted during the realism movement of art. During this movement, artists strove to achieve a realistic depiction of their art. They wanted their art to depict truth and accuracy. This forms a good background for this piece, because the painter wanted to picture Joan of Arc as she truly was, a hero. The overall theme is about the atrocities of war. This theme is important because of the many atrocities that take place during war. This painting highlights one of those many atrocities. Specifically, when people serve their country and then are left to fend for themselves when they need something in return. The overall mood of the painting is sorrow, as shown through the painting's form. The heavy usage of dark shades in this painting portray sorrow. The dark shades of red, particularly in the form of blood that is found on almost all people depicted, make you feel sorrowful for them. A dark cloud covers the background of the painting, casting a shadow over the body-strewn battlefield. Next, the painting's theme is an injustice act of war. Joan of Arc is represented alone as a French soldier, surrounded by English soldiers from the 100-Year War. This is to depict the French's abandonment of her after her capture by the English. She was unjustly left by the French after they used her in order to obtain a victory. In order to understand August Lisinski's Joan of Arc in battle, we must first look at 3 objects. These will help us to better understand his painting. The first object to mention is Joan of Arc. First of all, Joan of Arc is the most important object in this painting. She is centralized in the painting, making her the center of our attention. This proves that she is the most important object for the viewer to see. She is also surrounded by enemies, except for a clear line of sight for the viewer, reiterating the importance of the viewer being able to see her because of her significance in the painting. Secondly, the form of Joan of Arc is important. Joan of Arc is the only object wearing white, giving a clear contrast from the other objects in the painting. This is important because it depicts that she is the only person who is pure and whose intentions are clear. The cleanliness of her armor and cape show her innocence, highlighting just how unjustified the actions against her by the French were. Finally, Joan of Arc symbolizes hope. Most armies will rally behind their leader when they charge. Joan of Arc has her arm raised straight up in the air and her horse's head is down as if they are getting ready to charge. Despite being surrounded, she charges against the English forces as a depiction of a shining symbol of hope. The next object in the painting is the running crossbowman. First of all, the running crossbowman is an important object in the painting. He's in the far left part of the painting and at the very front in clear view of the audience. This shows his importance because he is in full view of the audience, making it known that Lisinski wanted to portray a message with him. He is seemingly alone in the cluttered battlefield, again reiterating his importance to the viewer. Secondly, we must look at the form of the running crossbowman. He is the only person in the painting wearing yellow, which makes him stick out with the background of reds, blacks, and grays. Yellow is also described as a symbol of cowardice, which goes directly with how the crossbowman is running away from the battle. Finally, the crossbowman symbolizes the English's fear of Joan of Arc. The crossbowman is running away from the battle, specifically from Joan of Arc. This can be seen by his backward-casted glance at Joan of Arc fighting the English. He is stricken with fear, clearly seen in his facial expression. He is also dressed in English colors, which altogether symbolizes an overall fear that the English possessed for Joan of Arc. The last object is the dead French soldier. First of all, the dead French soldier is an important object. The dead French soldier is located at the bottom of the painting, seemingly under several English soldiers, all with their weapons raised. He is dead in front of Joan of Arc, showing that at one point he protected her, and him, like the rest of the French army, has now abandoned her. This is why he's so important. Next, we must look at the form of the dead French soldier. The dead French soldier is wearing an off-white colored shirt, showing that his intentions for protecting Joan of Arc were not so truthfully told. He lays dead in front of her, leaving Joan of Arc open to the English aggression. Finally, the dead French soldier symbolizes the French abandonment of Joan of Arc. The dead French soldier is represented as the last defense of the French for Joan of Arc, and he is now dead. This leads to his symbolic meaning, which is the abandonment of the French. Once this last effort of the French to defend Joan of Arc is gone, she is left alone on the battlefield with no outside help. This is directly related to how the French refused to pay her ransom after she was captured by the English. Like in this as well as in the painting, she is left to fight for herself, which against an entire army leaves her death inevitable. Lisinski influenced the realism art movement through his depiction of Joan of Arc. His depiction of Joan of Arc alone on a battlefield showed the true essence of what art in this movement was about. He painted an accurate and honest picture of her fighting for herself without the aid of the country she fought for. Another important object in this painting is the aggressive swordsman. The man was representing the English aggressors. In Lisinski's painting, he is in clear opposition of Joan of Arc and is trying to strike her down. However, the other three objects were more impactful to Lisinski's theme. Therefore, the aggressive swordsman was not represented. Thus ends Brishum Harris's art speech presentation.